So I want to show you how to create a fan blade so that you kind of get the concept of intersect. Intersect is creating a 3D object that is not along a single plane. We've typically just done an extrusion or a press pull and it's on a single plane. However, we want to start working with more organic shapes. You're going to need to understand intersect and how to do that. So let's do a fan to begin with. So let's just do a 3-inch radius center point, and we'll do maybe a 9 overall. This might be too big. Let's bring this down to a 2. Okay. Now, we want to separate this into quadrants. Or I shouldn't say quadrants, I should say proportionate to the amount of blades we want. So I'm going to do a polar array. And I'm going to break this down into 5 items, okay? So now I have my footprint of how it's going to lay out. So what I can do is I can take one of those pieces and I can compartmentalize it with boundary, okay? You'll get a pop-up window, hit pick points, and you'll use one of the openings, click. Now it's a joined entity. Go ahead and copy that and move it with your ortho over to here. Okay, so now let's work on this. Now, this is not what I want it to look like, so I'm going to go explode. But this is what the footprint that I need to stay within. So let's start to create what I want the overall blade to look like. Okay. And let's fill it out a little bit so that it appears to be a little smoother. Too much. Okay. Okay. And then let's go here. Okay, we'll fill it this side. Okay. So this. So then this, I need it to be a single piece because I will extrude it later. All right, so now I want to make the center that it's going to, the axis it's going to rotate around. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than that because I want the fan to dead end into that axis point. So now what we'll do is we'll just do a helix to the edge of the fan blade. And both the top and the bottom radiuses need to be determined. And then we're going to do a helix height, let's do 3, and then go ahead and change your turns to 0.35. Okay, we want it to, and that's a little steep. Let's do the height at 1. Yeah, okay. We want it to have some elevation change. Blades are not typically too dramatic in their shifts, but they do have to catch the air to create wind, right? So then what we're going to need to do is create a line, but let me show you. You want this line to go past your blade. So we're going to do it at like 8. And then we want it to terminate the end of your helix. And so you'll just do a sweep. Remember, you select your object and then you'll choose the path. So if you look at it, it doesn't change that much, but it's giving you enough change. Okay. All right, so I'll just cut that out. We're going to leave it. Okay, so now I've swept my line. So if I look at it conceptual, it's just a sheet. If you hover over it, it's just a surface, okay? So I need to thicken this. So what I'm going to do, you can't necessarily do a press pull because you're on multiple planes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to go to solid, and I'm going to go thicken. And I really don't want it that big. I'm going to make it like an 1/8. But you'll be able to see that now it's a solid and you have some width to it. All right, so our next step is to extrude the footprint we created. So go to extrude, make sure it goes taller than the actual sweep. Now look at it from the top and rotate the sweep to interact with the actual fan blade. And you'll see it kind of cuts through it. So, now, If you want this to be more extreme, make it more extreme. If you want it to be taller. Now, there are limitations on the sweep, so just play with it and see what you can get for it. So what you'll do at this stage, once you've made sure that they're intersecting properly, you'll choose intersect, select your extrusion and your sheet, and you should have a blade, the actual fan. And I'm just gonna give you some rudimentary details for it, and then you can move forward from that. So you'll go ahead and you'll do a polar array on the blades. Now, I mean, you can leave it like that, but I'm gonna go ahead and make 5 like I intended to it originally to make it look more like I intended. And then I'm actually gonna put a center cylinder in the middle of this. And I want it, I'm gonna turn off my snap so I can kind of dictate where I want it to be. I want it to come up higher than the blades because I want to soften that edge. So I'm going to do a fillet edge on it, and I'm going to soften it. Now that's too much. You can see it goes into the curve of the blade, and you don't want that. So just change it to a point. With your down arrow, you can go ahead and shift it pretty easily to where it's coming close to but not overlapping the blade itself. And it should give you a nice smooth transition. Okay. Now, your other necessary step in this is creating the cage if you're doing a table fan. So for that, it's not that difficult. Let's put it in wireframe. And then what you'll do is you'll make a circle with your snaps on that goes outside the actual blades themselves. And then you'll probably want to create multiple blades that come in. So, or multiple stages for this. So I'm just gonna make my difference 1 at this point, but I'm gonna go ahead and play with how tall they are. So I'm gonna bring this one back pretty close to the other edge. This one I'm gonna leave, and then this last one is gonna kind of be the cap that you see on most of them, and I'm gonna leave it like that. However, now we have to look at it and they're all on the same plane, and we can't have that. So look at it from the side, go to your view, and select these 2 originally, and move them. Okay, so these need to go in a straight line, so they're not going somewhere weird. They want to pretty much be aligned with the base that we created. All right. And then I want this one a little bit higher. Okay. So I just want to visualize what I'm doing. So I kind of want it more like that. And then let's go ahead and look at this one. Okay. I need these to create the overall cage. So that one, I'm going to move it up, but if I look at it, I might need to add another ring. So just keep that in mind as you're playing with this. And then let's look at this one. Well, that's not what I wanted to do, but it's okay. This one's going to come past it for sure, because it's going to be hovering over the overall body. So now if I look at it, I have this step, okay? So I think what I'm gonna do is raise this one up a little. Oops. Remember, I gotta go back to the other. Raise this one up, okay? So that my line from these 2 does not conflict the blade. I'm gonna raise this one up, and then I'm gonna duplicate it, okay? Because you'll see in a second, okay, when I mirror these, I want there to be a smooth transition between the back and the front, and that's gonna make it look better. So let's go back to our top again. Now, in order for me to make a cage, I need a line that I can sweep. So for me, the easiest way to do it is if I use a 3D polyline, and I just go from one to the next, using the quadrant, okay? And as you can see, it should follow those lines that the circles you've already created. Now, I might want this smoothed out, and it is a polyline, so you would have to explode it. Now you could have just used the polyline to begin with, I suppose, and I'm just being over the top. I don't know. Is that smooth enough? It's up to you for your transition. And then here again, let's do the same one. And see, this one probably isn't that long, so maybe you have to do a 1 with it. So just play around with how you've created it. And then you do need a line to go from this one to that one. So then all of these need to be joined, okay? All of them. And remember, when you put the fillet in, it created a little line there, so you gotta make sure all of that's there. Join it. Now, what you're gonna do, and this is what I would do, I would make a little, let's look at it so you can see it. Make a little circle that's gonna be the wire. Okay, so 1.35 maybe? And maybe that's too small, I don't know. But make multiple copies of it, okay? Or remember the amount you made, because I need to do a few of them. So if I sweep this is my sweep, and this is my path. I need to look at it in conceptual, and you see it's creating that change. All right, so now if I look at that, maybe I want all of them to be like that, but I'm gonna wait because once I sweep them, I don't have attachment points, right? So I'm going to say, look at it from the top, oops, from the top. I'm gonna take my line and I'm gonna do a polar array. Okay, now that's not enough, right? But you can always change it. So let's say you did 25, all right? Probably decent. Okay, close your array. Okay, and there's your cage, right? And it bends around the edge. Now, what you can do at this stage, and you're gonna need at least like, you're probably gonna need all of this, all of these lines to mirror too. Okay. You're gonna need this, your polar array, your line here, your line here. You can see them, right? To mirror. And then pick your midpoint and just mirror them. Now this one, you're just gonna need to close up and you put the body coming through with the motor. Okay, look at your table fan, you'll understand what I mean. But for the top, you're gonna put a cap on this one. So remember we made those little circles over here? You can go ahead and sweep everything with these. So if I say, now you have your cage set in. It's always gonna be kind of set to the front because your motor's back here. And you can change that or shift that. I mean, there's no reason that you can't take the look at this and grab your fan and move it, turn your snaps off and move it if you want it to be more centered in the overall cage, right? That's fine. Then you'll have the front will have a cap on it, and just decide how you want to do that. I mean, you can put it in wireframe, make a circle, turn my snaps off, turn back on, right? That goes right to here. Okay. Then go ahead and copy it over to here. And let's see, offset it. Doesn't need to be much. Okay. Maybe I want a little bit more, like that, right? And look at it from the side. Maybe this side so I can see it, yeah. Change your view and bring this up. We're gonna move it along the upper plane. And then you can just do a loft if you want and just loft that into place, right? Now, I don't love what it looks like. You can also do a cylinder and fillet it if you want. So if you want to do that, you can do that and give yourself a cap. You can also do a profile and revolve it. Just make sure it's solid. Then you're going to copy this or just move it. Now you need to make sure you get the right one because you're going to have multiple. And you're going to place it right there. Okay. Now I didn't place it centered. Do you see that? If you look at it, it's, well, maybe it's not off. It's above it, see? So you may have to set in, let's see, hold on, go like that. And you may have to set it in place. Just make sure your snaps are off so that you can do what you want to do and not what it wants you to do. Sometimes it's best to use your own methodology to place these things, because the tools aren't exactly doing, listening. So here's your cap for that. And then you just have to decide how the back looks for you. You're going to have a little access point, and you'll have a motor behind it. You'll have a stand that it sets on. But for the most part, that's all you need to create a fan.